Hey everyone, welcome to the 2023 Tokyo Mobility Show. That's the new name of the Tokyo Motor Show. And I'm here, of course, with BMW because they have some new products to show. Aside from Neue Klasse and BMW i5, they have the world premiere of the BMW X2 and iX2. In case you've seen my previous video, I've talked about the iX2. It's right there in the corner. But right here behind me, I have the BMW X2 M35i in frozen Portimao blue. This is a brand new X2, completely different than the previous one. And that starts with the design. In the past, we've seen BMW having this evolutionary design. They tend to kind of stick to the same formula and just improve it a little bit, make it more modern, more digital in many ways. But with this new X2, things change completely because this one, it's meant to be more of an X4 type of vehicle. It's grown in size, and of course, it has a very, very bold design. So let's dive right in. Brand new design at the front. Of course, compared to the iX2, it does not have the same kidney grille. So still elongated, still got the illuminated surrounds right there, but then you have this horizontal slats, bars, however you want to call it. Now let's talk about the headlights because those are completely new and they're identical with the iX2. They actually just turned on, so you can see the double headlamps. That has not changed. It's the iconic BMW element that stays true. It does have this integration of the light bars inside, a little bit slanted. They call this a negative design, negative shape. And you can see that it's supposed to give the car a very focused look like that, especially with those creases coming around and integrated into the kidney grille. Speaking of a focused look and very dynamic look, you also have this crease running across. Once again, something that you see also on the i5, for example, so no surprise there. It's got the M Sport package, and because of that, it brings out a lot of blacked out elements. Piano black painted, of course. We've seen that on other BMW crossovers, and very aggressive, air intake right there. You have these air curtains on the side, of course, typical to the M Sport package. It's identical to what you see also on the iX2. It's got an M badge, of course. It's the top of the line M performance automobile, and BMW wants to make sure that we know that it is. So you have this M badge right there. You got a badge on the side, and you have some other bits that we're going to be talking about in a second. All right, so side view, another M element that was inherited by the X2 M35i are the mirrors. Of course, nothing new. We've seen it on other non-full M cars, and we get it on the X2 M35i. Once again, we're talking about more M badges. There is another one there. And then speaking of another badge, you have it on the calipers as well. You have some nice gray calipers, M Sport brakes, and these dual tone wheels, M Sport wheels as well. Massive wheels, always love to see that on a BMW. I believe they're 21 inches in size, so quite a bit larger than what you see on the F39 X2. Now let's talk about the side view shape because this is completely new, completely different. And that starts with this crossover coupe line, right? I've talked about this before. This is probably the biggest change on the car. The outgoing X2 F39 generation is more of a hatchback, very short back, very, stubby in many, many ways, and quirky looking. This one, it's more of a traditional coupe crossover. Think about it in terms of a Mini X6 or an X4. Of course, he has grown in size quite a bit. I believe it's really close in size to an X4 and definitely larger than the current X2. Flush door handles, of course, because BMW likes to standardize their items on all the cars, and that's how you're getting this on the car. You have a bunch of creases running across. Of course, you have these spats, which for a change, I actually love that BMW decided to paint these spats in the same color, body color as the car. They used to be black, and it was always one of those ugly type of elements that I never liked really to see on a BMW. From the side also, I missed this. Also, the front splitter kind of comes across here, and it gives the car a sporty look. It's not your typical Motorsport one where there is a separation in there. It's kind of glued, taped onto the body of the car. Since I mentioned the creases, you have this line running across all the way into the shoulder, and there is a reason for that. You can see it from right there. The idea is to emphasize the width of the car, to give the car more sportiness. Once again, another typical design element that we constantly see on different models. More lines running across, so it's got very complex shapes on the side. Once again, you got this line connecting right there, and then you have another line that separates the top from the bottom, BMW always tells me that they decide to use these two lines to kind of break down the height of the car to make it look, you know, closer to the ground, shorter in height, and therefore a lot more dynamic looking. Now we're getting to my favorite part because, you know, just like on the iX2, taillights. Somebody just asked me, actually one of the BMW experts, you know, if I like the car. And I said, you know, overall I do like the car. I feel like it's a better design than the outgoing one. I'm just not sold yet on the taillights. And I'll tell you why. Because BMW decided to have this idea of integrating double headlamps or double lamps, double lights, however you want to call them, into the taillight. So gone is the typical L-shaped design that we used to see here, this massive L shape, you know, one-piece design or two-piece design, didn't matter. Very cool looking, very traditional BMW. But right now you have this interpretation of the taillight with two bars here, two bars there. I'm not sure really what's that meant to do, but I guess I can explain this one. So from a design perspective, if you were to eliminate this particular light element, then you would have this one right here, which is fine because as you can see, there is a little notch here which helps with aerodynamics, with the airflow going around. That's fine. It also gives the car additional or the impression of additional width when you look from the side. So that's always been a typical BMW design cue that's been on the car. Nothing wrong with that. It's really just this piece that it's kind of weird looking, especially with the integration of the brake light, I guess, there. And you have this weird shape in here too and that. So I don't know, I'm not completely sold on this one yet, but I guess somebody told me earlier, you know, once you see it in real life, apparently it looks a lot better, so you'll have to decide that for yourself. Of course, M Performance Automobile, so you have this massive spoiler on the trunk. I've always loved this design compared especially to the iX2 because you have this cutout in here. Of course, it's a functional piece. It helps with the airflow, aerodynamics as well. Downforce too, but it just looks cool and I do like it on this car quite a bit. Moving lower, actually, we're gonna talk about maybe the second controversial piece on the BMW X2 M35, and those are the pipes, right? So you have quad pipes on a non-full M car, right? So full M car, what I mean by that is M3, M4, M5, you get the idea, and then you have the M Lite cars, M340i's, X3 M40i, so on and so forth, and now the X2 M35i. I'm not surprised because I've been hearing about this for many years, so I knew exactly what's coming. We've seen it on the X1, and if you know BMW brand, they tend to be very conservative when it comes to their products. So if they use one part on one car, they might use it on the other one. That's exactly what they did here. So quad pipes on the car. At the first glance, I said, why, right? I mean, if I want to buy an M car, I'll buy an M car, but there will never be an X1M or an X2M. So this is the closest thing that you can get in terms of visuals to an M car. So if you're this type of customer that wants to have some of M design bits on it to look a lot more aggressive, then this is the only option, and I'm okay with it. If you're looking from a perspective, is it cannibalizing the M brand? Of course it is, right? I mean, we've known the M brand to be known for quad pipes, M mirrors, and M badges, but right now you see all these items on many other BMWs, so that line has been crossed a very long time ago. Moving on, let's open the trunk maybe a little bit, because of course it's a crossover, so it's supposed to be practical. And if you've seen the iX2 video, I talked about the cargo space because you are getting a little bit more cargo space in this one. I don't exactly know the percentage or the overall liters. I can put that on the screen if you're interested, but essentially because there is no battery pack, you have a lot more room under the floor, and it's quite spacious actually. Actually, when I'm going to drive the car in the next few months, I'll hop in the back. I always tend to do that. It might look weird to do it here, but I'll do it in the future for sure. So the things you do to show the space in a car, right? So it might look silly, but the idea was this. I'm 6'2", about 1.9 meters tall. I'm about 80 something kilos, right? But I wanted to show you how much space you actually have in the new X2. So this is the M35i. There is a little bit more cargo space than on the iX2, but as you can see, it's quite spacious, right? I mean, I can lean down, I can lean back, so you can easily fit a couple of large carry-ons, large bags, and that was the idea of this redesign, to have a lot more space also in the car, and hopefully this silly exercise proves the point. Now, I'm probably gonna get out because everybody's looking at me funny and they're screaming at me to get off the car, so let's do that. Let me close it off. So we've talked about the exterior design and all of that. Hopefully we can go inside, but no surprise here, identical to the X1 M35i. If I recall correctly, the only variation or difference, the only delta, it's really the Alcantara on the dashboard with this double stitching. I believe that's not on the X1 M35i, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember exactly. Overall, really the same car, M Sport steering wheel, 12 o'clock red marker because you have the M Sport Pro package. And then of course you have this trim which can be customized. You have Alcantara seats, which are quite nice actually. Probably my favorite piece in the car. It's a combination of, you know, Vaganza leather and Alcantara. And it's got this really nice kind of like a bucket type of, you know, look and design as well with that cutout right there. So I actually like that quite a bit. Biggest change, of course, compared to the outgoing model is the addition of this large curve display. Again, standardized across entire lineup of BMW cars. iDrive 9, I think it's configured right now in Japanese, but you've seen it before. We'll do another demo on this one as well, and we'll talk about what's different there. Inside, the controversial piece comes from this one, right? Because just like the X1, you are losing the gear shifters. You have this toggle shifter, which is, you know, kind of weird looking, a little bit cheap. And then, of course, you don't have the iDrive controller, which I feel like BMW finally nailed the iDrive controller. It was so good. It was really, really good, and now they took it away. But that's beside the point. So there is no iDrive controller. Everything gets done either by touch or by voice. And that's the state of things when it comes to the X1 and X2, unfortunately. Space-wise, I mean, as you can see, I'm 6'2", 1.9 meters tall. This will be my driving position, let's say. So maybe I'm adjust the seat actually to be the perfect. So this will be my driving position ideally. And then with this being said, I'm gonna go in the back to show you how much, you know, space I have right behind me. So let's assume that I'm a tall guy. There's another tall guy behind me. That will give you a better idea of the space. So let me hop inside. So of course it's a little bit tighter, right? I mean, I adjusted the seat. If I were to sit on that side, as you can see, it's a lot more spacious, but you know, still decent. Maybe I could lean this one backwards a little bit more. Maybe it's too upright, but I do have decent knee room, you know, 2-3 centimeters, 1-2 inches there. It's got a nice scoop in here, so if I want to stretch my legs, I can probably put my, you know, knees in there and get a little bit more room. I can't say it's ideal for very long distances. Probably you'll have to stretch your legs once in a while. But when it comes to the headroom, definitely plenty. I mean, I'm sitting, you know, normally right now, I would say, and I have, you know, 2 inches, 3 inches, so not bad, decent. Of course, got this nice scoop in there to help out with that. Side space, I mean, of course, if I close this up, I have a lot more. You could definitely put somebody in the middle seat, but it will have to be somebody on the smaller size or a child. And it's recommended only 2 adults being here for longer trips. But overall, I mean, absolutely improved when it comes to the space compared to the F39 X2. I will have to compare it with the X1 to see if they're identical or not. I don't remember the specs right now, but that's something that we'll do in the near future. So, all right, so this was the BMW X2 M35i. As I mentioned earlier, it's coming to the US, of course. The iX2, it's not. I'll have a chance to drive this car in the next few months, of course, in Europe and then in the US, and I'll be able to tell you what it feels like on the road. Especially, I'm interested to see what it feels like compared to the X1 M35i, which one is the more dynamic car. So stay tuned on that, but for now, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.